So moving on now to a mid-tone of skin. This lovely lady here. I've got, you can see, 2 photographs I'm working from. Quite often I will print out 2 photographs of my subject, one with the brightness up. Just gives you a different perspective, lessens the colour, washes it out so you can sort of see your shadow areas better. So, like I said before, with every skin tone I'm going to start off with the cream just as a base. Make sure that these contours, make sure I know what they are, like this bounded area is that darkest dark. I'm not going to confuse it for a highlight, so I'm just really paying attention to the area I'm working on and looking at which of these marks I've drawn in is what. See, the main highlight I need to preserve is this almost triangular area here. Quite a big highlight, so it's a lot easier to keep an eye on and not colour over by accident. You can see also I am using a little bit more pressure than I did last time, just because I know that the layering we're going to do to get the colour right and the depth of tone right will stand being starting on a darker background, so I'm using a bit more pressure than I did when I was working on the picture of the baby. Sometimes it can get a bit confusing here, like I'm just losing my way a bit with this. Sometimes it helps to have your original gridded up picture with you, which is why sometimes when I'm working I leave part of the grid visible at the edges. If you do need to double check your drawing at any point, you then can just put your ruler up and see which bit it was you were working on, you were looking at. If I look at this picture I can see there's brown tones through the skin of her cheek until we get right to this part here, which has got the sort of pink blush bits of it, whereas on this photograph you can see it's not quite as clear, it's not as defined, so I'm going to reserve the pink tones until right at the end and just use them to highlight the blush of the cheeks. And so I'm going to concentrate on an even warm brown colour for the rest of the skin. So I'm going to go in with beige. And now I'm going to look at these darkest darks, building up the shadow. Give a bit of structure to the face. Remembering what I said about zoning into the highlights from last time, so more or less it's just about blending in from the dark area to the light. That's where your mid-tone is really useful. See, the shadows on this one are not quite so defined, which is why it's useful to have this second photograph. I'm going to come in with the purple like last time. Still very hesitantly, but taking care not to overdo it, but I can be a bit more brave than last time with it, because I know there's going to be lots of layers go on top of it. I'm just bringing this photograph a minute. It's all about having reference points of where the absolute darkest values are and the palest values, and then fitting everything else in between. Where this dimple is, I'm just treating this area here like a little mini hill, using the direction of my pencil just to help get that feeling. Sometimes as well, it can help when you're doing skin just to put in this dark area of hair behind, particularly useful if you've got reflected light on the jaw. So if I was working on this as a proper full portrait, I would probably just bound that with something dark, just so I can see the tone I'm dealing with on the skin. Like I said, it's about having reference points of tone, so you know whether you're overdoing it or not doing it heavily enough. Everything works against each other on the face. So even though we're concentrating on skin, it's affected by everything else. The colours in the whole portrait, but we'll talk about that, bringing it all together a bit later on. Same as before now, I'm starting to see that this is a very spherical area. I'm just bounding it with shading as I would if I was drawing a ball or an orange or anything spherical. Let me switch to a brown tone now. I'll use brown ochre. Just using this now. I've got my darks coming in, I'm starting to see the really darkest areas of the dark. It's amazing when you really start concentrating on a photograph, you'll notice these little zones appearing. Like now I've got almost a letter R there happening of really dark. So as soon as I see them, I can put them in. Like I said, it just helps you to have a reference point then to build up the mid-tones against. This lady's skin tone has got lots of lovely warm terracotta-y tones as well in it, which I'm going to start introducing soon. She's also got a few little freckles which we can add in. With things like freckles, you really don't need to, unless they're large freckles in strategic places. If it's just general freckliness like that, you could just be a bit random with it. Depends how absolutely particular you want to be with your portrait. Sometimes obviously people have distinguishing marks that you need to get in the right places, scars and specifically shaped freckles or specifically placed ones, but I think that would be fine just to indicate that. Sometimes, like I'm finding just at the minute, that this brown ochre is not wanting to build up just how I expected it to on top of some of the other colours. Sometimes there can be a difference in how the wax feels. It's just, you need to just experiment with building up layers in different orders. I think colour pencil, working with colour pencil, a lot of it is experimenting to find your own preferences anyway. This is, you know, I'm showing you the things the way I prefer to do it, but there's no hard and fast rules about it. You could just as much have got to this colour and tone by any different combination of colours. I'm going to just introduce a yellow colour. This is Jasmine. Just like I said, now just to try and introduce some of this lovely terracotta-y brown. And also burnt ochre. Because it's a reddish tone, you can see I'm being a bit more hesitant. It's worth noting as well that a lot of the rogue pigments in colour pencils tend to be reds and pinks, which is why, because I'm doing portrait commissions a lot where people are paying for the finished piece, you don't want it to fade and the colours to disappear in time, so I'm always really careful which ones I use and being sparing of them. Just going to let this colour wander over now a little bit into the highlighted area. Remembering what I said, that the highlights of skin are very rarely going to be absolutely the white of the paper. When I do that, when I sit back from it like that, I'm just squinting, half closing my eyes and just generally doing a really quick assessment that the shadow areas are the same shapes that I've got going on the photograph. And you'll get used to spotting straight away if there's any anomalies between yours and the photograph. Just going to go back to beige for a minute. Just do that whole zoning in thing, blending between this nice brown area I've got and that nice pale highlight. It's getting to the point where, again, I would probably now leave it until I got some more of the features in, but I'll just put that little pinky touch in like I said before. I'm going to try this one, light oxide red. We'll just see what that one looks like on top. No, it's not a strong enough colour. We'll have to brave it with a bit of magenta. Oh no, Madder Lake. This really needs to be done lightly. little bit of a blush, give her a healthy glow. And I think we can probably leave our mid-tone skin there for now.